You're listening to the Accordion to Me podcast with Veronique Medrano. Hi, I'm Veronique, and on this week's episode, we get to chat with esthetician, promotional model, and freelance journalist and content creator Fatima Gamez. This South Texas entrepreneur has built herself an empire alongside her family and now is embarking on continuing that journey into so much more, but you'll have to watch to find out. This podcast is sponsored by Cricket Wireless. I recently made the switch to Cricket, and they removed the extra hassle of staying connected and calling within the US and Mexico. And trust me, that is always an issue with every other service provider except for Cricket. Make the switch and join the Cricket Comunidad with me, Veronique. And if you think that's too good to be true, then download the Try Cricket app from the App Store to start your free trial of nationwide 5G that covers 99% of folks in the US. It's just one reason why people who come to Cricket stay with Cricket.
One trial per person, 5 people per home address. An unlocked GSM-compatible smartphone is required. Cricket 5G requires a compatible device and is not available everywhere. For 5G coverage, see cricketwireless.com/map for more details.
Watch and listen.
Well, thank you so much for coming, Fatima. So how are you today?
I'm great. Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's definitely a different experience, as you know, being on the other side of an interview for the first time.
Yeah, I was about to say, we were talking earlier about the fact that you've hosted a few things. You've always been the lead and leading in situations, and now you have to let the reins go.
I'm getting the experience of not having control, and it's the surprise, and what are they going to ask me? So I'm getting the experience of what the interview of the other side, what the person goes through. So it's nice. It's been a great experience so far.
You're saying it's nice and it's a great experience. We just started.
It's been a great experience thus far.
Like at the end, we will follow up with Fatima at the end of the podcast.
5 stars till now. 5 stars.
5 stars right at the start. Our stars can go down, and that may happen. So tell us a little bit about you. You know, you've had a very interesting journey to this part of your career.
Yeah.
You know, you've done esthetician work, modeling work, and now you're entering a different era with freelance journalism and hosting, hosting in a space where you're asking questions and you are delving into the entertainment space.
Yeah.
And so given all that experience and that career, a lot of it has been with people.
Yeah.
A lot of it has been, you know, you have had to engage with people. Yeah. And so with that in mind, do you believe in energy transference when it comes to working with other people?
I do. Not only does it have to do with communications, but also I've noticed it has a lot to do even with photography. You have to have that connection when creating a photograph, when creating a video, with creating content, because you all rub off of the same energy. And when it comes to my career, it honestly started with, thinking back, I was always a kid that got in trouble for talking too much in class. And I was always the one that they would call the parents, hey, your daughter talks too much in class. They would always have to move me from seats thinking that was gonna solve the problem, but then I would make friends on the other side of the class. So that was the beginning of me knowing and learning that I love to be very talkative and everything. And part of it also had to do with breaking the ice. That was my way of kind of not having that awkward silence and breaking the ice and always looking for ways of complimenting people and opening up a conversation. And then from there, I remember thinking, what's my favorite subject? And I would always be like, I'm not good at math. Well, I'm not good at science. I hardly like to read. What am I good at? And I remember taking my first speech class in high school and just thinking, wow, I love speech. I just love that class. I love to be in front of the class and presenting and speaking. And I would notice a difference on my peers where they would find that nerve-wracking.
Yes.
And I would think, wow, why are they so nervous? And why am I so excited for this? And then I thought, that's different. I think speech is my favorite. subject. And then once I learned that you can make a career off of that, I'm like, wow, you can make a career off of talking and speech.
But you talk about the fact that, you know, you weren't good at math and you weren't good at science, but yet the first journey out into an adult job was as an esthetician and building that business.
Yeah.
And how old were you when you started that?
I was 23. Yeah.
Wow.
I'm currently 31, so I've still had that.
So 23, that's just a few years after high school.
High school.
And so let's kind of touch on, you know, you're saying that you used to talk a lot.
Yeah.
Did that ever cause any type of issues with your self-confidence at any point in time? Like, did you ever feel isolated because of just your very bubbly personality? You have that warmth. I'm just going to say it right now.
Yes,
like,
thank
you have that, and it makes sense why this is the job and the career you gravitate to. But, you know, was there ever a point where you were just like, I just wish I was different. I just wish I could just kind of make myself small. Did that ever cross your mind?
It didn't, but it's very easy to get caught up in that because when speaking, you get very caught up on talking. So I remember my first experience when having to step back, and it was somebody that made a comment that said, "Are you gonna let me finish talking?" And from there, I realized, wow, I need to learn to be more of a listener. And from there, I started admiring people that actually step back and listen. And from there, it's like something that I always wanted to learn because I've always been a talker, but never a listener. So, I mean, you have to have, there's a balance between everything. You can't just be all listener and no talk at all. And then you can't just be all talk. Mm-hmm. So there was a point where that did affect me where it was talk, and never listening to people. And I would listen to answer and not listen to actually process what
and
people
understand.
are telling me. So that was something where I had to step back and think to myself, I have to be a better listener.
I think in today's environment, that's really kind of the big thing. We listen or we read or we anything to react.
Exactly.
Like anything that we kind of look at, watch, read, it's almost like it doesn't stay and we're immediately reacting.
And you're thinking, how am I gonna react? How am I gonna respond? And it's like, no, actually take a minute to take the information, learn from it, and then you get to respond. And sometimes you don't have to.
And Fatima's such a unique name.
Yeah.
Fatima's a super unique name. And so, like Veronique.
Yeah.
So where did that come from? Because that's not a normal name here in South Texas.
And it's funny how you mentioned growing up, we all know Kimberly so-and-so, Stephanie so-and-so, their last name. Nobody really knew my last name because they didn't have to learn it. Because they didn't have to learn what Kimberly, what Stephanie, what...
because it would differentiate. Like,
exactly.
How many Kimberlys are there? How many this? And they were just like, oh no, just Fatima.
So I never grew up like with people actually knowing my last name because it was just, I was only Fatima. They didn't have to learn my last name, but that's actually my mother's name. Okay. And I grew up in a very Catholic household, and there's a Virgen of Fatima. And my mom was actually born on the day that the Virgen of Fatima appeared in Portugal. Okay. So back in the day,
Portuguese?
It's actually Arab, but then there's also Portuguese because of the Virgin of Fatima. But back in the day, they would name people with the calendar. So if you were born in Valentine's, you were Valentina or Valentin and stuff like that. So my mom was born on the day that the Virgen of Fatima appeared, and my great grandmother was like, whoa, she has to be named that because she was born on this day of the calendar, and it's the Virgin and this and that. So then from there, after I was born, my mom just decided to name me the same thing.
Wow. And it's interesting that you talk about names because when like a lot of people missay my name, which is always so frustrating. God. No, it's the most frustrating thing. And you've watched me just smile.
And you can relate to that when it comes to getting into class and them roll calling your name. That was the worst.
That was the worst. And I was always like, Veronique, Veronica. And I'm like, look, you guys, it's not like, and then people would say Monique. And that was no issue. But yet when it said it was Veronique, like my name was mixed matched, put in so many different ways. And that would as a young child, that would mess with me a little bit because I felt like, are you guys just purposely just trying to be dense?
Yeah.
And it's like teachers and students and everybody. And it just came to a point where I just had to be really comfortable with my name. And my name is translated to the true face of God. So mine is based off of, of obviously Catholicism again. It's based off of the woman who wiped the face of Christ, and Veronica. So like that's why they say it's the true face of God.
Wow. That's interesting.
Yeah. And so like we look at your name and there's like a mix of, Arab and Portuguese.
There's so much,
and in your family, how did that like affect your confidence? How did the way your name was and who you were allow you to have an environment where you really felt like you could strike on your own in anything?
And it's funny how you talk about that and how you can relate to that with me, because it's something that really did bother me as a kid when the teacher would say your name wrong, and then when they would say wrong, they would say Fanta. They would say Juan, and then I remember they would bully me with that. They'd be like, "Wanna Fanta? Don't you wanna Fanta?" So if the the teacher would say the name wrong, then out on the playground they would hold on to that name.
Yes.
They called you this, they called you that. So it was like thinking back on it. It's like, and I would always tell my mom, why didn't you name me something just like common and a basic name where everybody can say, where I don't have to like actually spell it out and say you have to say it so and so. But then now we get to see how kids are having more unique names, because back in the day when we grew up, there wasn't that much diversity on having different names. And now we're starting to see like people are not naming their kids basic names.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so it was definitely something that did bother me a lot as a kid, and it was something that would bring me down when they would say it wrong. I remember having to go into class on the first day and having to go early to speak to my teacher and introducing myself and teaching them how to say my name so that they wouldn't do the roll call, they wouldn't say it wrong.
Wow.
That's to the extent. Yeah, that extent.
And so like names are so important, they're so vital, they allow us to be, and a lot of the times we think, oh, like a name is just a name, but a lot of the times names for certain people, yourself, myself, and other people that feel in that same way, that their name is unique, almost have this sense of like, not pressure, but there's an expectation because you have such a unique name that there's something unique about you. And in my mind, I would say there is definitely a reason why you were named Fatima, and there's definitely a reason why I was named Veronique, and that there was a sense of that you would affect and touch people. So there was a uniqueness to you from the start, that somehow in some way, whatever you believe in, that there was some type of fate in your name. And so how did your family support your confidence?
I think they build my confidence, and that's the reason why even on social media platforms, the name Fatima Flawless actually came from trying to build up my own confidence. Because, it's normal to look in the mirror and be the biggest critique to yourself and start saying, I dislike this about me and I don't like this about me. And then one day I thought to myself, I'm going to look in the mirror every day and I'm going to say that I am flawless in every single way, and embrace your flaws, and you're flawless. And then from there, it's like I changed. Back in the day, it was on MySpace. I changed like my name to that. And then from there, it just carried on. And it was just something that empowered me to look at myself in a more uplifting way.
Nice. And so do you, given this sentiment of just flawless and flawlessness, you ended up going into esthetician work. Tell us how that started. So
that actually started because throughout high school, I would apply to jobs. I wanted a job. When you turn 16, that's the first thing. Oh, I can like make an application. I was excited because you're 16 and all your friends are working. And then I thought, let me start doing applications, and I wouldn't get hired anywhere. I wouldn't get hired anywhere. I guess because I was like trying to apply to like more higher end stores and stuff. I wasn't trying to do like McDonald's. I was like setting the standards high.
Okay, I need to know what were the locations? Do you even remember?
It was like, I think it was stores like Macy's and all those like stores, like, but you know, Macy's already has their employees that are there for years and stuff. So I was always like trying to like start big instead of building up from something small. So then when I was a senior, I thought to myself, I need to get into like a small career so that when I'm doing my actual degree, I have a job, a reliable job that's gonna pay me good. And the first career I did was nails. So I went into school right after, that summer after graduating, I went into school to learn how to do nails.
Okay.
So that's when I got the licensing of that. And then from there, I went into aesthetics. And then from there, my mom was like, hey, you do so good. Like, I'll help you open a business in the industry. Because my mom was always the type that didn't believe in college because she did it without college. Mm-hmm. So she expected me to be more of a business owner before. And but then after the pandemic, that made me realize that I needed to go back to college and I needed something because owning a spa is fun, it's nice, but it's a luxury. And it all depends also with the economy. It depends also
and trends.
Exactly, trends. And the pandemic obviously showed us how a business can right away like shut down.
Oh yeah. I mean, how did the pandemic affect the spa?
By law we did
work?
Yeah, by law we had to close completely. So it was a very, very difficult time. And that's when I, like I said, made me realize that I had to go out and get a career, an actual career. I mean, owning a business is very stressful and things like this can happen. And I had the time during the pandemic. I had the time to study. I had the time to focus. And that's how I finished my career in broadcasting journalist. And then during the pandemic, the schools were lacking a lot of, enrollment. And they made it very easy for you to go back to get your master's degree. So they were waiving a lot of things
like
for the program and everything. And I thought, hey, it took me this long to get my degree. Might as well make it worth it. So now I am in the journey of hopefully this year finishing off my master's in communication.
Nice. Yeah. And you talked about, your mom, being very like, okay, you need to be an entrepreneur because that's where the money is. What did she do for work?
It's interesting how she's just like very, very self-made and very driven. So growing up, my mom would throw newspaper. And I would be in the car with her at 3-4 years old in the back seat while she was throwing newspaper. She would go to the flea markets, sell plants, and then would buy Mexican cheese, like that very good cheese, the one that shreds real nice. Yeah. And she would drive all the way to Corpus and would open the back of her trunk and would sell chease. So she'd go from here all the way to Corpus? All the way to Corpus with fresh cheese, would park, open the trunk, and would sell out with cheeses.
And how did that affect you as a kid?
It was just
being constantly on the move, constantly on the go. You're young. Like, it
just made me realize how there's a way. Like if you hustle, there is a way. And it imprinted that in me that, hey, you can go out and like sell water, you can go out and sell. And she always has a saying how she can sell sand in the desert and how she can sell, there's something about
like ice to Eskimos.
Yeah, exactly. She always says that because it's like there's a way. If there is, and she'll make it happen. So that's something that I always admired about her, how even being a single mom always made it happen by even if it was selling cheese or selling a plant at the flea market. And that was all before she grew in a company and became a very, very, very successful sales representative. And then that's how she started.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So she pretty much was like, she did all of that in the beginning, saved a little bit, then pretty much gave you money to start your business. And
saw it as a business herself too.
Yeah.
Said, hey, you're doing this, I'll invest in a machine and you give me a percentage.
Okay.
Yeah. So she's very
all the machines,
mind like that.
Yeah. So she helped, like, not just the startup cost. She also helped with the
invest with the machines. Yeah.
Wow.
And said, hey, so and so is, I'm gonna get a percentage of this. So that's how her mind works, and that's how she kind of like never gave me that of, she was never very strict with give me good grades or go to school. She was always very work ethic, more of work ethic, have a good work ethic. And if you're going to do something, you're going to be good at it. Even if it comes like cleaning a restroom, you're going to be the best at that. Or selling something, you're going to be the best at that. So it was more of work ethic. I never really had that in me of going to school.
And being like, oh, I need to have the A's and the B's.
No, she was never that way.
And now that you've shifted, I mean, how does your mother see that now? Like, how is she looking at this journey that you're taking to now?
I never felt very supported when it came to going to college. I never felt the support from her. Every time I would be there studying, she'd be like, you're just wasting your time. You can be out making money right now. That was always her mentality. So I never felt supported. And even when I graduated, I still didn't feel the support from that.
So she wasn't excited?
I didn't feel the excitement. But then now when I hear her talk to people about me, I hear it. And I see, oh, my daughter, like she has a bachelor's and she's gonna get her master's. So even though she didn't show it to me, now I feel like she does when she speaks about me.
It's finally turned over that new leaf. But with the bachelor's, that must have been rough. So
it was.
So in essence, she inadvertently gave you a gift without even intending to, which is the work ethic, to the point that even when she wasn't the most supportive that you may have maybe wanted her to be, or been there in either the emotional ways or in any ways that would really help boost you, she inadvertently gave you that self motivation and that self-worth. That, I mean, I think when you're in your 20s, that's such a hard thing to have. In your 20s, like having self-worth and having just self-motivation is hard, because you're now thrust into this world where you have to be an adult, or at least that's what the world tells you. And so compared to your teens and your 20s, what's something that you kind of take from that time now that you're older? Like what are things that you would tell someone that is in that same space as you, that has, you know, parents who are just, they're very entrepreneurial and they're just kind of focused on that the grades and the stuff like that, they're just, it's kind of a fly by night, do what you want. But they're in a space where, you know, they want to kind of be at another level. Yeah.
And it's difficult because it all becomes with, you have to be self-driven and you have to be focused. And it's something that I also regret as in my early 20s, like being so focused on going out and being so focused on friends and actually like not building a career so that you can enjoy your 30s. And that's something that I do regret a lot. And then nowadays it's so easy to graduate with an associate's. To graduate, like getting straight, like there's kids now that are in their early 20s already getting a bachelor's. And it's like, wow, like where was I with this? Like I could have gotten a free associate's, like tuition free. So, I mean, that is something. And I do feel like that when the older people would tell the younger me, now I feel like I'm the older person telling the young kids, stay in school and this. And it's like, oh man, I'm old. Like now I'm the one giving this advice.
Well, you know, a lot of people have this perception of age, and our perception of age is just so different than, at least I feel like my perception of age is so different than from when I was in my teens. I mean, I thought, oh my God, my life is over after 25. And really.
Or how we used to think 28 was so old. I would meet people that were 28. I'm like, wow, they're so old. People that are 30, they're so old. And how you view your life differently at this age. Now I'm 31. And when I was in my early 20s, I thought, wow, at 31, I'm probably going to have like 3 kids. And I'm probably going to this. And it's like, no, that's different. It's weird to think of life that way.
Yeah. Like
and that goes back with how you say the perception of age. We have that since we're kids.
Yeah. Like at 17, like I saw my 25, like my age of 25 so differently. Like I thought, oh, I'm going to be settled down. I'm going to have a husband, or I will barely be getting married because I'll have graduated high school, or I'm sorry, graduated high school, graduated college. And you know, like I planned out my life in my head. And then when life happened, because I no longer had the training wheels of of my parents. That's what it was. It was like training wheels on a bike. That's what they were. And once I had to actually go live, it was scary. And I went through so many different things in my 20s. Do I wish I had listened to my parents or, done things a little differently? Yes. Yes, I do. And that's a really wild thing to say. That it's like, oh, I wish I had listened to my parents.
Or they were right.
Yeah,
you think back right. Wow, they were right.
I don't want to acknowledge it. I don't want to admit it, damn it. Yeah. But when you admit it, it comes from such a different place. Like everybody has said that the 30s are better. Yeah. And
the 30s, there's a saying that I remember so much. The 30s are like your 20s, but with money.
Yes.
Now you have the money to actually go into
versus
things.
In your 20s, you're just out there. And that's where I'm like, man, like in your 20s, like chingos of people are going out, to 17th Street or 7th Street or whatever your version of that is, which is like a bar street and just blowing money and being out every night and being up till like ridiculous hours in the night. Like I remember I could stay up till like 4 a.m. Now I'm like, absolutely not. That's not happening.
Or you drink one day and it takes a big toll on your body. It's like, oh my God. Like and someone run over you. And it's just like, it takes you more days to recover from that night out.
Yes. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to stay home. I'm going to stay home and have half a glass of wine if I can, or just water. Like it's insane. I always wonder if it's like we age fast or we think we're aging too fast or like just life changes or if our body was never made for it. But we get through, your esthetician work and going through to this other side of being educated. And what are things that you have gleaned from your education that help you now in your business, and whether it's your spa business or anything else? How have those skills bled into your other work?
Mainly when it comes to modeling, because they think models don't have a brain. So that's something that people are like, whoa, like she has a degree or she's educated. And it's something that makes you feel good, because it's like, I'm not only looks, like there's more to me, and looks fade. So that was another thing that I always drove me to have an education too, because I thought, well, I'm not going to be modeling and making a career out of my looks my whole life. I'm going to have
Martha Stewart's 80 and she's on Sports
that is
Illustrated.
true.
So
that is true.
Now that perception
has
is very
changed.
different.
It has changed.
And it's different.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like, I think one of the things that makes me so upset, and I champion you and I fight for you, is that I hate it when people talk about you like you don't understand or you don't know things. And I'm like, but why? Like, this person is making a living. They have a job. I wish I had, my up and I mean, we all wish for, el cuerpazo or this or that. And it's like, if you can acknowledge the aspects of which you are jealous of someone, you can start to realize that other person. And what are things that you wish people would just kind of really take into account when it comes to you as a person? Yeah. And not just the model.
It's just like, for me, and it's normal to think that way. Like, for example, I remember very clearly being in class and having a professor and putting a bunch of images, and he put an image of somebody that was all tattooed, and he asked the class, what do you think they do for a living? And people were like, well, they look like they're drug dealers, and they look like they're this, and then they thought, well, and then he said, well, they're actually priests, and they have, I don't know how many church, and they're priests. And then he put a picture of a girl that was like, the nice body and the big boobs and the nice hair, blonde and everything. What do you think she does? Oh, well, she's probably like a trophy wife or I don't know what. And then he's like, well, she has a master's in psychology or so-and-so. And it's like how he wanted to take how we perceive people that way. And it's like, and it's normal to do that. It's normal to just see someone that way and not think like, oh, they have a brain, or oh, they have that, And something that I would like for people to know about me is how independent I am and how driven I am.
Early in 2020, I was in an accident, and the consequences I was living with afterwards was a lot to handle all at once. So if you're like me and trying to recover while trying not to lose your car, lose work and therefore money, and super injured, and have a huge growing stack of hospital bills to pay, then you need a professional to get the care you need. In case of an accident, you need a lawyer to protect your rights and your wallet. And honestly, you don't have to look any further than that simple phrase by going to incaseofanaccident.com or encasodeaccidente.com for a free consultation 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And if the person who suffered the accident wasn't you, but maybe it was your tia, your abuelita, or your second cousin twice removed, don't worry. Everyone at incaseofanaccident.com or encasodeaccidente.com can speak Spanish, hablan español, and they can take text messages on WhatsApp at 888-990-0911. Don't forget to tell them that Veronique Medrano from Accordion to Me sent you. Yeah, because the perception of you is, I think that's what makes me the most mad, is that there's a perception of you that is really not kind. And like, people nitpick you because of your body.
Yeah.
Because of that, and not realizing that there could be a whole sea of insecurity that goes behind this beautiful body. And so dig into that with me.
Body, right now that you bring up body, it goes to show you that there's a lot of ways of body shaming, not only for people that are very skinny, people that are more on the thicker side, people that are more voluptuous. There's body shaming of every way. And I remember this clearly going to Jerusalem. I went last year during April, and obviously covered everything. But
you were
just because, but just because I was more, the same person that wasn't as voluptuous as I was could wear the same dress, and they wouldn't get no dirty looks or anything like that. But because I was more on the curvier side, wearing a dress that was still covered, I would get like, people were telling me bad words in their language, and like would lower the window and would yell at me. And I could be wearing the same dress a skinnier girl would wear, but just because of my body shape, I was getting shamed for wearing that dress just because of my curves.
And here in you know, that happened in Jerusalem. That's insane, because you were following their customs. You were following what, like the clothing, and you weren't being disrespectful.
Completely covered.
And yet you received that kind of backlash. But then here, locally, here in your backyard, what experience have you had with that?
It's like she's so insecure because she's just so obsessed with her body, and she's just trying to perfect her body. It's an insecurity that she has, and it's like, I don't feel insecure about it. I feel like I love myself that much to take care of my body, or to work out, and to want to beautify my skin, and want to do Botox and fillers and all of that.
And a lot of people would say that that comes from like an insecurity,
They connect it to an insecurity.
Like it always is connected to that. Has your experience to modify been tied to that ever?
I don't feel like it has been tied to that. It's always been wanting to be better. And I think it goes back also to the way I am in normal life. I want to be better. I'm never satisfied. I'm never satisfied with my career. I'm never satisfied with my business. I want more businesses. I want more education. I want more exercise. It's like a thing of me to be never satisfied. And sometimes it can be a good thing, but sometimes it can be a bad thing.
I was just about to ask, what in your future, where do you see satisfaction? What, like, is there a point, like, is there an image of what satisfied Fatima looks
and
like?
It's kind of sad, because it's never like, you think back and it's like, oh my God, I don't know if it happens to you. I used to think I was fat there, and I was so skinny.
Oh my God.
And it's like, I didn't embrace that moment. I didn't embrace that satisfaction.
I didn't either. I'm going to be super honest with you. I was like really honest. I am 50 pounds up. I'm just being real honest here. I'm 50 pounds up from where I was, but I had a car accident. I was in and out of the hospital. I had 3 to 4 to 5 different surgeries, all within 4 years.
Yeah.
And so the way I looked 4 years ago, I was mean. And then I look at myself from 3 years prior to that, and I was even meaner. And I just remember just like, I felt beautiful. Like there's photos where I felt beautiful in the moment, but in my brain, what people didn't see was this like pinching, like little spots. And I had to stop doing that. Like it took me 2 years to break that habit.
Wow.
That was instilled in me from childhood.
Wow. And that goes back to the definition of what I mean of satisfaction and embracing. It's okay to embrace the moment, and it's okay to not be satisfied and want more, but embrace that moment of your life, that process of going through the process. It's a beautiful thing. When it comes to your career, when it comes to building a house, when it comes to building a business, it's good to embrace the moment of what you're going through, because you're going to look back at that, and then it's going to help you also be more ambitious.
Like my favorite scene is in Grace and Frankie, where she pretty much, I think it's in Grace and Frankie, where she pretty much says like, take the pictures now. Take the pictures of yourself naked. There was some scene where it was pretty much saying like you are young and your body is.
You're never gonna have this moment again.
You're never gonna have this moment or this body again. Like my body at 25, like in my 20s was very different than my body now in my 30s. With surgeries, with life happening, and life continues to happen like to your body. And the unfortunate part about being in the public eye, like you and I are, is that you either have to be super confident where you are at, period, point blank, or the internet will tear you apart. Like the comments of other people will weigh so much heavier
they will.
Because of that. And so like I said, I was super transparent about my weight, and people can kind of guesstimate where that is, but like that is a point of insecurity for me. I look at myself and I know that, you know, I'm working on it. My body has changed. My metabolism has changed. You know, like so many medical things have changed. And a lot of the times we don't look at that. A lot of the times we don't pick up on that at all.
And we don't see that people have a backstory to everything.
And I will say, like, you are such an inspiration, because you are, of course, going in there, putting in the work. Because a lot of people say, oh, well, es todo cirugía. There's no work. And no, to upkeep surgery, they literally tell you that you have to.
It's like you're like the 80% and that's the 20. Or probably the 15. But yeah, talking back on that, like also like with weight especially, and when it comes down to criticizing weight, you don't know the medical problem behind, because you can look at two kids and they eat the same thing and their body is completely different. Like growing up, I was always like the very petite girl, the very skinny girl, and I would eat everything. My neighbor used to sell chicharrones and chips and bolis and all that, and I would go and buy all those snacks from her, and I would eat that. And then at that time, I had a cousin living with me at my house, would eat the same thing and would gain the weight, and I wouldn't gain the weight. So that goes back to like with children, they all have their own genetic of their body, and we can't criticize a parent and be like, oh, all they feed them is McDonald's, or all they feed them is this, because every child has different body genetics. Some of them are just eat everything and they're just so thin, and some of them, and that goes back to saying how people criticize that and don't know the medical, the genetics, everything behind. There's a lot that goes to it.
Oh yeah, like you know, we're talking about, you know, putting in the work and putting in that work to maintain. Like I had a row of like surgeries, hardcore medication that was healing me from the inside, but creating havoc on the rest of my body, and then injections and cortisol injections.
Retaining liquids.
Oh, okay, there we go. I was like, I'm like, you were fully aware of what that stuff does, and it allows you to live outside of pain, but then it's like you have so much to do. And so I had done so many shots because I had to, that I eventually got this handy dandy monitor because I am pre-diabetic now, because all those shots raised my blood sugar, and now we're here. Like
Yeah.
all of those
You
things.
fix something and damage something. Wow.
Pretty much. And so like I'm doing this because I want to do it. My insurance isn't telling me to do it. Like I'm doing it for myself.
Yeah.
But a lot of other people, you know, everybody's body is going through something different. I wish I could say like, oh yeah, follow Fatima's diet and exercise plan.
And that goes back to knowing your body. You know your body. What works for me isn't going to work for you, because we go back to where I can eat a lot of other things that some people may not be able to eat. And some people can not eat specific things. You learn your body. For example, me, I lose weight easily, but I gain weight easily. So I have to have a balance between my carbs, and I have to have a balance between my cardio. I can't overdo cardio, but I have to do cardio. So it is confusing to learn like your own anatomy.
And I was about to say, I always find it astonishing that you didn't go into sports medicine or into something like that, because you're so invested and involved.
Yeah.
And with that being said, how many hours do you spend in the gym?
I spend about 3 hours at the gym. I spend 2 hours at the regular gym, and then I do my cardio at CrossFit, and 1 hour there.
Okay.
But I love it.
And how many days do you do that?
7 days a week.
7 days a week.
I only rest when I leave in vacation, out of town. That's when I only rest. But it became, at first it was part of my job to exercise, because it was like, okay, we're going to do a promotional work and you're going to wear shorts. And I'm very prone to cellulite. And I would always think, oh my God, I'm going to have to go out for a run because we're going to wear shorts this weekend. And I can't have all those dimples marking. And like you say, being in the public eye, you get more pointed out in even the smallest thing. And it's like, okay, Miss Perfect, you're pointing out my flaws. Let's point out yours. But yeah, I mean, unfortunately, that's what it is, being in the public eye. Even the smallest mark, the smallest change, the smallest pound is going to get pointed out. And at first, working out started off as being part of my job. And then from there, it evolved to just part of my daily routine. If I don't do it, I'm in such bad mood. Like, it's my stress relief. It's my me time.
I have had a hard time getting back into it. What is advice you would give to implement movement in your daily life? Like, we're not saying you have to pull a Fatima and do 3 hours, but it's just how do you get yourself to a point where there's movement and you're not in pain? Because the older you get, the more the flexibility starts to go if you don't keep it up. So what would you recommend?
An advice I got back in the day that I will always remember and I always keep giving is somebody told me that anything you do, anything, whether it's good or bad, becomes a habit after 30 days. So you smoke for 30 days, you're going to become a smoker. You drink for 30 days, you're going to become an alcoholic.
A la madre, that's
you wake up every day at 5 a.m., it's going to become a habit if you do it continuously for 30 days.
So all you people who do shower beers every day, after 30 days,
30 consecutive days, it becomes a habit where your body asks for it. Ask for that beer, ask for that cigarette, ask for that. So if
for the good and the bad.
Yeah, for the good and the bad. It doesn't matter what it is. So if you want to commit to, let's say, stretching, stretch every day for 30 days, and then your body itself will ask for it. If you want to leave drinking soda, leave drinking soda for 30 days. And after 30 days, your body's not going to ask for that anymore.
And when you drink it, it's going to feel so foreign to you.
Yeah.
And so what are your favorite, we're talking about body, about image, and what would you like to change about your image and perception personally? As you grow up,
something that I can change, or something that I would want to change.
Yeah, something you would want to change about how you perceive your body, how you engage with it in public, personally.
Yeah,
like not for anyone else. This is just
something that I always struggled with. Has been my height. I hated my height growing up. I was always the small one and everything, and I would always get bullied for being small.
I would get bullied for being tall. We are on two different spectrums.
You see, that goes to show you how people are never going to be happy, and they're always going to find something to pick at you.
Yes.
too tall, too short, too big, too small. And it's funny because I was talking to my niece, and I have two nieces, and I always ask them, so how's it going at school? Does anybody bully you? What do they bully you about? And then I asked my niece, and my niece has my same body frame, very petite, very small. And I tell her, do they bully you, mommy? And she says, yes, they do bully me. And I'm like, well, what do they bully you about? For being too small. And I'm like, oh, I had like a really heartwarming thing, because I'm like, I got bullied for being too small also. And it's like, wow. So then that goes, and then I tell them, well, that's why you have to eat your vegetables, and you have to do this so that you can grow bigger. So you use that to your advantage with the kids.
Of course. But like, was there anything outside of obviously the healthy parts that you told her, like literally that is such a great moment, because it helps you see that it just never changed. You're 30 and you're seeing that
still,
like, it's still an issue. Like, we can be as body positive as the society says we are, but really there's still cruxes. And so, what was something that was like an aha moment that you saw for your niece when you talked to her?
And I told her, I was like, well, who's the one saying this? And she's like, it's a boy. And I say, well, you go turn around and you tell that boy, well, I'm a girl. I'm obviously going to be smaller than you. You're a boy. And then I started like coaching her. What are you going to say? I'm going to tell him, well, I'm a girl and you're a boy. I'm obviously going to be smaller.
And what was the results of that?
I haven't had an update on that, but I will. I will bring you all an update on that.
There we go. And that's like, it's so generational. Like,
exactly.
Every time.
And it's like,
something.
wow, it made me get a little teary eye. How it's like, wow, that's the same thing I would get bullied for. I would get bullied for being too small. And here you are telling me you're get bullied for being tall. And it's like,
yes,
wow.
No, I did. I literally like had to get into Taekwondo because I got beat up. I got beat up as a tall person. Like, you'd be like, what? No, but it happened, and it was awful, because the thing is that like, as kids, we don't realize that. And a lot of people are like, oh no, bullying isn't as bad, or it got worse, or whatever. Like, there's so many different perceptions of what's actually happening with bullying. And no, it's still there and it still sucks. And like, kids, when they tell you about it, listen to them. And advise them and coach them and be their champion, because a lot of the times, I mean, my champion was my grandmother. Like, she figured out that a boy was beating me up. No joke, was beating me up. It's a joke. It's funny, but
now it's funny.
No, now it's funny. But she tells people to this day, like, when people were like, the boys at school had all decided, because all the girls had, le pusieron en el mente, oh yeah, let's get her because she's weird and she talks too much and she's too bubbly and she's too this. There was a lot of she's too much, and then whatever the thing was. And she's too tall, and I'm like, well, chingao, I can't. I'm sorry that you all are tiny ants. Okay, I don't understand why you have to be so mad.
But it's nice that it now.
My grandmother went, and she literally was like, oh hey, you. Like, she drove into the parking lot where they pick us up, and she's like, you're the one beating her up. What is your problem? And she was like, tú, da, 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 da. And she got out of the car, and the boy ran. And mind you, this is my grandmother, but she is like, tiene la chancla at the ready for anyone. Her chancla is rated E for anyone, or actually E for everyone.
But it's nice now that bullying is brought to awareness. There's awareness on bullying, because when we were growing up, that was not a topic. I don't even think that word was like even out there. I mean, bullying was out there, but it was just like awareness of it, pointing it out. No, absolutely not. Never. It was like, oh, you're gonna get stronger because of it. And it affects you, because for me, it made me like that angry kid wanting to fight everyone, because it's like, I thought to myself, if I stand up for myself, then no one else is gonna bully me anymore.
So what was a situation in which you stood up for yourself?
About being bullied for my name, being bullied for being too small. And it's like, yes, and it's like fighting. If I fight this person, or if I say something to this person, then they won't bother me anymore. That was like my way of like thinking that I would stop bullying. And you do it? And I would do it. I would do it, because for me, it's like, I'm going to show them.
What's the biggest ass beating you ever gave, Fatima?
I think all my high school, I was always in trouble for getting in fights.
But what was like the most iconic, like
most iconic was this incident where we were in a class and the professor, I mean, I think there were teachers, right? In school,
well,
teachers,
good.
professor, teacher, was very old and couldn't stop the fight that ended up being part. So that was like the most iconic for me because it was like so funny that the teacher ended up like getting dragged into the fight. So it ended up like being like we're jumping the teacher now. I don't know. It was so weird. And then from there, he couldn't get help because the students weren't out calling the security. So they didn't know that this was going on in class. And it was going on for so long that the next day I was sore. I was like, oh my God, it was the longest because nobody knew that was going on in the class. So nobody was able to come in to separate everyone.
Yeah, no, the most shittiest fight that I didn't like. I still say to this day it was a draw. It wasn't like you didn't see any marks on me because but you saw marks on her because I grabbed her lonja. The way I grabbed mine, like for some reason, like my self-hating tick helped me fight my bully because there was a chick on the bus, and some people may remember, especially if you're in South Texas, that there was a story about a girl who got pushed from a school bus and left in a neighborhood that she was not supposed to get dropped off at. That was me. I'll just put it out there. That was me.
You were the one that got left.
Yes. Oh. I was the one that got in the fight and got left on the street, and the bus left.
Took off.
That was my punishment,
and then back in the day, we didn't have a phone. So how do we contact? I had like
this little itty bitty Motorola, like something.
So you were able to contact your parents?
Well, I was messed up. Like, here's the thing. Like, I got in the fight. I got pushed off of the back of the bus. And the only reason I was cool was because I was tall, so my leg stayed like this. There was a car right behind the bus.
Oh, so you got caught, like the rest of your body didn't exit.
Yeah, like it was like this. It was like,
yeah,
and like it was crazy. It was on the news. It was crazy, and like, long story short is I'm okay. We went to the hospital. I was fine. They figured out who the chick was because she had chingos of marcas from me on her stomach, on her face, like everywhere. Yeah. And there was not a mark on me. So I will say that I was the winner, but just to be polite, we were at a draw. And that chick never messed with me again. Yeah. And that was it.
And that was a mentality where if you do that, they won't mess with you anymore. And
unfortunately, like, it just really sucks because not everybody has, like, you either have to be really smart and tactical when you're fighting, or you have to be just like, you have to get lucky. Mm-hmm. Like sometimes you just, it's those two. You either have to be really tactical or lucky. Mm-hmm. There is no in between. Yeah. And I'm not condoning I'm condoning fighting, but I'm not saying, oh, go and fight people. It's just as a kid, that
was our way of reacting to bullying. That was our way because there was no awareness to it. There was nothing, like there was no punishing for that. So it's like now it's like we don't condone that now because now there's a lot of different ways. Now it's brought to awareness.
Do you think it's because we're Valley?
Maybe we're just we have the Valley in us, the Valley in us,
the Valley in us. We're just like, come on. I'm from South Most, so like that tracks. Yeah. But like for you, you know, I can now see why there was just this ideation that it's like, screw school. Yeah, I hate it here. Yeah. It sucks. If there is now like this trend of kids who, if they don't want to be in school anymore, they get their GED and then immediately go to college. Wow. Do you wish that you had just done that instead of dealing with high school? Because sometimes I sometimes wish I had just taken the fast track and just not dealt with any of this. But then I look back and I go, okay, well, you know, I was able to get through it, dealt with it, got through the bullying and the teasing and the making fun of and had a good life. But every once in a while, I'm like, I can totally vouch for, like, it's okay if kids just do not want to deal with the bullshit.
Yeah. I think I had a very good experience in high school. I liked my whole high school, and it's something very memorable to me. So, and it's kind of bad because I read a meme where it says, if you enjoyed high school, you were the person that was doing the bullying or something. There's a quote of that, and I'm like, but I really liked high school. I really thought it was so fun. I thought it was like everything, like the whole experiences of sports and the cheerleading and the volleyball. But maybe because I was the kid that was out there involved with the whole homecoming, I would win the best all around and the best dress and all of that. But I made that experience for me. But I can see for the kids that they're very like socially awkward, that they're not very social, that would want to take that route. And I feel like it goes back to you
do what's
being,
best for you.
Yeah, exactly. I think that if you are a very social person, it's a good environment for you. But I think if you don't like to be social, then don't even bother with that. It depends on the person.
Yeah.
Because like for you and me, we had different experiences. You were like ready to get out of there. And for me, it's like, I was like in the homecoming and homecoming queen and king and the sports
I knew
and all
I was
that.
never gonna win that shit. I knew. I knew, but my experience was so different because I like I said, sometimes I go, man, I could have done that. But then I think of all the friends I made getting into like junior and senior year. It's like you're aging like a fine wine in high school.
That's what I mean. So you wouldn't have that experience. And I love to see back like all the students I went to high school, how their moms and their children and everything. So it's something that you carry with that you can't get back.
You have been listening to the Accordion to Me podcast, which is made possible by listeners like you rating and reviewing the podcast. Every time you leave us a review, one of your haters loses their wings and their wallet and maybe their keys. So if you love the podcast, leave us some stars and a quick blurb. And if you hate the podcast, send it to your enemies. Either way, everybody wins. Bye. You don't want the vibes to end? According to me, you're in luck because I'm the advertiser. You hear that? Go listen to my music on your favorite streaming platform by searching Veronique Medrano. The songs that you need to add to your playlist right now are Mezcal Maria featuring Beatriz Gonzalez and my new Spanish Tejano country tune, Que Hueva, that recently won Nashville's Music Row magazine's Discovery Award. Also, if you're wanting to sport some merch, we'll be launching pod and music merch on my website, www.veroniquemedrano.com. New merch will go up each month, so hurry while it lasts and get some matching merch for you and your mom. You know, so she wants some new swag? Boop, boop. This has been your paid ad read. Boop, boop. What are things that now you really just enjoy? What is like a relaxing day for Fatima?
A relaxing day is something that won't get me off track. I love being in the same time of routine of waking up at this time. If I have to wake up like earlier, it's kind of like, it's already like messing with me because it's not something in the norm. So a perfect day for me, it's like everything going smoothly at the times. I don't know if that has to do something with autism or something, because I know like autism kids, like they have to have their routine, but I feel that way. Like once I have my routine, it's like the perfect day for me.
Are you autistic?
I'm realizing it's like, do I have some sort of that? Because it's like, I love my routine. I love to, but then I also enjoy traveling and getting out of my routine. So I have to have a balance with that.
So you like to balance work and play.
Yeah. When it comes to work, it's just all work. And when it comes to play, it's all play. There's no in between. Yeah, it's weird.
And we're looking at your world. We're looking at what's happening with you, the experiences you've had, the bullying, the kind of there's a drive in you consistently, like whether it was elementary, middle school, going into work, getting your own job, and then dealing with the pandemic. And now that drive has led you to a show, which is La Comidilla. Yeah. And so tell us about how all that started, because like you and Jorge have known each other for a good bit. Yeah. How did that like come up? Like, okay, we're going to do a show.
Yeah. So it's funny because I obviously been in the same industry doing work, and then he was, and then we would do events and kind of like be together and, hey, help me do this and speak a little on what's coming up this weekend or whatever we were advertising. And then from there we started to realize that there was like the energy, we had the same sense of humor, we had the same, like we would be laughing, and even his wife and my boyfriend laugh because they say, every time we see you all in the show, y'all are always laughing, y'all are always like cracking up, because we have that same sense of humor and that chemistry when it comes to doing.
I was gonna say that
bouncing
you guys have
off,
really
bouncing
good
off.
chemistry.
Yeah, bouncing off, and that goes back to how you started asking about the chemistry when it comes to like the energy and doing the. I consider him a very positive person, very energetic. So I like that. I like working with people
and
that way.
And you guys met a lot because of Mario Davila.
Yes, working with Mario Davila. He would work for Mario Davila advertisement, and then I would work for Mario Davila in the modeling side.
And the promo, yeah.
And then from there, he's like, hey, you're real good. Like, I like the way you speak and everything. Would you like to be part of, which was back in the day with the radio. Mm-hmm. We would host the radio in the morning.
Yes, I remember
We would host the radio in the morning, and then from there, multimedios. And multimedia is very popular in Monterrey, and they try to do something here in the Valley, and it wasn't as big as it is in Monterrey. So we would do the multimedios, and it was the Comidilla. And then from after multimedios didn't make it here, then from there, they were like, La Comidilla is still a really good show. We really like your energy, so let's bring it to Mario Davila. So the MD Media part of it.
Yeah.
So that was a whole journey of that. But I really enjoy working with people that are just so energetic, that are always so positive, that you hardly hear complain. Like, I love people that see how do they say that, the cup halfway full instead of halfway empty. I love to rub off of that. I like to steal that energy. I love stealing that energy, because if you're around people that are negative and always like complaining and always looking at things on the bad side, then that's going to make you view life that way too.
And I'm sure you've dealt with that a lot.
I have dealt with that, and it's something that I internally have. I always say I'm naturally negative. I always look at the bad before the good.
I would have never expected you to say that at all.
I force myself to be positive, and I have to like tell myself, no, believe in it. Think positive, but don't just think it. Like, actually, like, believe it. But like sometimes I'll think it, and it's still with doubt, and I'm like, no, take that doubt. No doubt. You have to think completely positive, that this is going to go positive, this situation, because that's what you're going to attract.
So the inner saboteur in you, what does it say?
It just says like thinking positive, which is something that
no. This is inner saboteur. This is the negative one.
Yeah. Oh, the negative.
What is the negative?
Always looking at the bad.
Like, give me an example.
An example, like a situation, a deal, a business deal or something. No, I don't think this person will like my pitch. No, I don't think so. No, deep down, I'm like, wait, I don't think, but always thinking like, he might not like this person might not like this. Always, my mind always going that way, instead of thinking of all the good things that I can bring. And I always have to reprogram my brain to think that way, and I always test myself, and my mind always goes into the negative right away, instead of thinking the positive.
I still have this issue. I mean, I have it because it's just the nature of being an entertainer and being a person, is like, I put out music, and you know, a lot of people know me for my music, and they're like, oh yeah, you must like think that everything's gonna go great. And it's like, no, like every win for me, every publication that puts something up about me, every award that we get, every single thing that happens that's positive, it's not that I'm acting like it's brand new. It's more, I really do appreciate it, because it quiets the voice in my head that doesn't like me.
Exactly.
And that voice a lot of the times can be an amalgamation of different things that I've been told over my life that I kept, that I held on to. And it's just, you're right. There's a sense of reprogramming that I constantly have to do. Constantly.
Yes.
And it's literally just maintenance. It's an aspect of maintenance. And so you were talking about how, like, in the morning you have a routine, you know, is there like, what is your steps to reprogram negativity?
I wake up, and it's like, I had this thing back in the day where I would wake up mad. Oh man, I have to wake up. Oh my God, I have to start my day. That was my mentality. Instead of reprogramming my mind, it's like, wow, like I am gifted with another day. My family has a lot of health. I have health. Like it's already a great day. But you right away wake up with that mentality, oh man, it's Monday. Oh, I have a long week ahead. Oh, I have so many things to do. And instead of being thankful and that you are gifted with the ability to get those things done.
And has there been moments that have made you not feel safe? You work as a promo model. Mm-hmm. People know you. Yeah. People take photos of you, all that stuff. It's not an easy job. And I was there when there was like an event and I was watching, and it's like there's a sense of you're constantly having to be aware of your surroundings. Yeah. So has there ever been a moment where you just didn't feel safe?
I get very like about showing what I drive. I don't like to show the outside of my car. I don't like to show the outside of my house. I don't like to specifically like say I'm from so-and-so. I don't show my nieces. I don't show my boyfriend. I don't hardly show my mom, because I think like that's people that are crazy. They start off by getting to that to get to you. So I think it does affect me in that way that I'm not able to like post the way other people can post, like, oh, this is like my niece and my child or whatever.
Does it ever hurt?
Yeah, it does, because it takes away from like that moment. Like for example, today my niece has awards, and it's like, man, I wish I could just post a picture of her with all her awards and everything. But it's like my mind always goes back to like, wait, what if there's a stalker that like finds out that that's my niece, and or what if there's a stalker that sees the background of what school she goes to. So yeah, it does feel, I always have to be aware in that area of posting like very personal things. And that is the reason why my platforms are very like just myself. I don't really like to post anything about family.
Does that hurt?
Yeah, it hurts because it takes away from like those special moments. But then there's always pros and cons to everything, and you learn to embrace the moment instead of having to do it for social media now.
Yeah, but it's like you said, there's a sense of like you can't live a full life like everybody else.
Yeah.
And yeah, I get it. Like sometimes, you know, you don't have to post everything. Yeah. I get it. Like if it wasn't posted, it didn't happen.
But that's always on the back of my mind, like thinking like there could be somebody that can be stalking me, or there can be somebody that, and it affects also with my business, because sometimes I want to promote my business, but then some people just show up there just to like, I want a picture with you.
Really?
Yeah. So it does affect like the business side of it too.
Like in those situations, I mean, of course, we can all laugh at it after the fact. It's happened to me too. But like we can always laugh after the fact. But as it's happening, dig into that feeling. What tell us, like, what is it?
I've always felt like it's never gotten to that point, but it does make you feel like you are in that. It can get to that when people just show up to like my business and be like, I'm just here for a picture. Like, I just wanted a picture with you. And it's like, man, like it's kind of difficult because it's like you're an image and you don't want to be that, oh, bien sangrona, she did this, you know? But then it's like, oh my God, like you're stalking me at work. Like it's still behind the back of my head, like, oh my God, you came to look for me at work. But then but then that image of like, okay, I have to be nice. Like this person does like my work.
It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Because it's a double-edged sword because you want to be a good person. And you want to be a good person because you're a public figure and you engage with people so honestly and openly, but yet they encroach on your private space and on who you are, and make it to where you have to calculate every photo, every angle, every image, looking at the background, looking at this, looking at that. Isn't it exhausting?
Yeah. It is. It is just the thought of just having that behind your head all the time, with being also trying to be polite, also not trying to be that like, oh, she's just so stuck up, didn't want to take a picture of me, because I could have easily been at work and be like, hey, what are you doing at my business? Like, I can't take a picture with you here. Then I'm gonna come off as like, oh, she was she was being stuck up and didn't want to take a picture with me. But then also being aware of like your surrounding, like, okay, you came to look for me at work and stuff like that. Or people like asking for the number. Oh, give me your number just for business. And it's like, oh, it turns out it wasn't business. You wanted me like, or you're messaging me for other things.
Tell me, what are those other things?
Yeah, like for people approaching me, it's like, hey, for business, like I want to hire you like to promote my business. And then from there, it's like they start messaging other things. And it's like, oh my God, no, here we go. It wasn't for business. It was also like just personal reasons.
Sexual.
Yeah, sexual reasons.
I have received, and none of y'all start your bullshit. I'm telling you now, don't start your bullshit, because I'm saying it now, but I swear to God, if y'all start your bullshit, there's a reason I knocked off all my Facebook messaging. And mind you, it was because I was getting dick pics every single fucking day. I'm sorry. It really pisses me off. And then like, yes, I have toronjas, okay? I'm fully aware of the size of my breasts. And like, if we put up ads, like we will get a slew of people talking about my tits and just my tits. Yeah. And then I'm like, okay, you know what? Mary Kate
There's
and
more than my
Mary
tits.
Kate and Ashley are appreciative, but please, like, chill. Like, and it's just like, I get really pissed off because I'm like, wait, I would love to be like, oh, hey, like, let me get work. Or like you said, where you're like you get a number and you give it the shot because you're like, well, shit, I might be.
They look professional. They
look professional. Those are the tricky ones. The people who look professional, and then they're there in your DMs showing you like their little shrimp-sized whatever, thinking it's the size of a log. I'm sorry, sir, it's not.
Yeah, and then also like Messenger when they like video call and all that. It's like, what? Like, what is like? Well, I remember the first time like I even got that. I'm like through the phone, like far, like what is it? Like, what is this? But yeah, it's
why does it look so weird?
What gives you the like, what makes you feel comfortable enough to video call me on social media? So yeah, things like that are kind of like weird.
Well, and then what sucks is that some of these people do have power and do have influence, and then you're sitting there like, do I politely say, hey, thank you so much for the very intriguing dick pic, but
or what do you reply? What am I supposed to do with this information?
Like, no. Well, what sucks is it's when it's people with power and people with influence that actually do message you, not just fans or random people, like people who have influence that message you. Like I had a radio DJ go on air and talk about my body. And mind you, they were supposed to be promoting my song. And all they would do for like the rest of the 30 minutes was talk about how they want to go on a date with me, how they wanted this and that. And like, it went from like me being happy that they were promoting my work to me feeling like an object, because they were no longer respecting me. They didn't really give a shit about my music. They just gave a shit about TNA, about my tits and ass. And it was really, it really hurt. Yeah. And I was like, and I literally called the radio manager, and then after that, they stopped playing my music. Wow. And I was like, look, and mind you, I was polite. I just said, look, this is something that we need to address, whatever. Then a different radio DJ, same station, I'm not even kidding, it was the same station, ends up messaging me, was really nice. I was being nice. And then their wife starts messaging me, how dare you talk to my husband, da, 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 da. I'm like, are you doing this shit to the other Tejano singers? Because radio DJs talk to chingos of female Tejano singers, and you're coming at me saying I'm flirting with your husband. This is work, lady. Like, I have to message this guy so that he can put my music on the air so that I can message it. It was the most frustrating thing, and by the end of it, I'm not played on that station at all. Wow. Because two different DJs, one of which was just being sexually just objectifying me, and then the other one whose wife decided that it was her mission to get on. She already had issues, obviously, but made it her mission that because she was insecure in her relationship, she was going to come at me.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying, hey, don't be insecure, don't check on your man, but like have some fucking cognitive dissonance on the fact that like I am working.
Yeah.
I am working.
Yeah. And it's sad that all this happened because you stood up for yourself.
Oh,
and it makes you feel like, wow, why did I even stand up for myself to cause all this? And it makes you think like that way, like, wow, like, oh, because I stood up for myself.
Oh yeah, it's happened multiple times. Like I have been, I mean, it's not the prettiest thing, I've been assaulted and verbally abused and so many other things within the music industry. And do I talk about exactly who it was? No, because it doesn't matter. No one's gonna care. They're not gonna stop working. Cancel culture doesn't work. Sorry, it doesn't. I know people say it does. It doesn't. No. Like for me, in my life, in my experience, it doesn't. And so, that's why I was like, that's why I defend you so hard.
Yeah, and that's the reason also the drive for me to get my degree, like, because especially in the industry of journalist, it's always like who to get you to that spot, who to make you that weather girl or that newscast or that spokesperson, promotional, and it would always have to be like, oh, you have to do this to get that position. And it's like, for me, that was a drive, like, no, I am gonna get my degree so that nobody can shit on me and I can be like, I don't have to do those things because I have a degree.
What things?
Like they try to be like, oh, you have to flirt with me to be like, to have this promotional work, or you have to flirt with me to get this like brand deal and things like that. And it's like, no, like now it's like I'm valued because I have a degree. I don't have to flirt with you, or I don't have to talk pretty to you or suck up to you.
Or suck you. Fuck out of here. Fuck out of here, fam. No, like that, like people, and unfortunately a lot of people are really bold, and a lot of it isn't just, sex based, like a certain
and it's
gender.
like you with
it's all across the board. All across the board, there is a very big sense of like ownership, owning you, possessing you.
Exactly. And I'm sure you can relate with it with your music too. It's like, oh, well, we won't play you if you don't do this, or if you don't like all that. Suck up to me and flirt with me, we won't play you. And it's like, no, like,
oh, we won't hire you if you cause problems, or if you tell people like that you're not feeling safe because of XYZ. It's a big pain in the ass. It's a big headache, and you have to be both a man and a woman in the entertainment industry and the media industry. You have to be both. You have to be feminine and soft, and at the same time, be able
still stand up to yourself,
be aggressive and masculine. Like it's a really hard line. Yeah,
it is. It's a balance that we have to have, unfortunately.
Yeah. And, you're talking about your degree, and that really, you wanted to have it stop, and the messages and these things, and it's a part of the job that it, unfortunately, like strangers can do it and strangers can message you. But what would you like to see in the future for yourself?
In the future for myself, I would like to make more businesses. I want to make more businesses.
What kinds?
Different kinds. I would like to do, like, I love a lot of businesses that are like rental things. So things where I can like own but then still rent at the same time. Like, I don't know, like Airbnbs, party event centers. And recently I rented like trailers, and I'm like, wow, like this man has like all these trailers and he's living off of rent, like rotating the same invested money. So I feel like renting, doing like plazas and suites is something that I have a friend that lives off just of renting homes, renting like suites for businesses, and that's what she does all day. She has like all her free time because she rents for a living. So I think that's a very interesting business that I would like to do, finish off my master's in communication and be able to do something corporate with that. But I would really like to do something corporate with my master's degree in communication, but something where I can do like online so that I'm able to continue my travels. Because that's a lot of things that stop me from pursuing things in my degree is not having that flexibility. I love my freedom of flexible because I own a business. I make my own time. I make my own schedule. If I want to leave out of town, I empty out my week and I'm able to do so. And if I'm, tied into something, a company where that they don't give me that flexibility, I think it would be very, very difficult for me to be able to do that.
Yeah, I think unfortunately from my own experience in the corporate world, they're just not flexible. But that's been my experience. I hope that your experience is 10 times more flexible than mine was. And with that being said, when you look at, you know, your travels, because you're talking about your travels, you've traveled so many places. Give us a brief list of those places.
I've been to like over 13 countries. I've been to England. I've been to Italy. I've been to Greece. I've been to Japan. I've been to China. I recently went to South Korea. I've been to Thailand, Colombia, Peru. Lots of parts of Mexico, obviously, lots of parts in the US. But it's something that I actually grew up with. My mom is a big traveler. And every year in the summer, we would make a big trip. And it was something that the whole family would look forward to. So then from there, it became something that I grew up with. And then from there, it grew into like bucket list. I'm just going to do one more country. If I visit this one more country, I would be happy. And then adding more to the list, adding more to the list, and adding more. So then it became like just a thing where it's never ending, and it's something that I always look forward to. And it's something that drives me like to be, oh, I have a trip coming up. I have to like be more like, do more exercise and work harder. I have to work harder, and I have to work harder at the gym because I have a trip coming up.
Okay.
So that's kind of like my drive in a weird way.
And so like Anthony Bourdain had always said, you know, it's always good for people in the US to go out of the country at least once because it changes your perspective on how you live your day-to-day life and how the world perceives you and how they live versus what you read in the newspaper, in the news, or read in the news or whatever about what life is like. And do you agree with that statement, and how so?
And it makes you feel more appreciative also. When you come back home, it's like, wow, I really have it this easy. Like these people in other countries, like there's such hustlers, and there's such like from a very young age, and they're so basic, like, and we're over here stressing about like, we have to have the perfect shoe with the perfect tone to match this shade of pink and this shade of nude and this, and it's like we stress about the little things, and you go to other country and it makes you realize like, wow, like I stress about things that I don't even have to stress about, and I have it so easy compared to other people in other countries. And you go like, when I went to Bali, Indonesia, I saw kids outside in a soccer field playing barefooted, and the happiest ever. And here we are having to stress about the best shoe that's going to be more reliable to play the best soccer and the best on your feet and all that. And it's like these kids are out there in another country like living their best life.
No shoes.
Yeah, with no shoes,
no shirts, no problem.
No stress, no stress. So
no stress.
It makes you appreciate like, and not stress and not overthink like stupid things.
And yeah, so has that helped you mentally?
Yeah, it's helped me mentally to be like, you don't have nothing to complain about. Like absolutely nothing to complain about. And that's actually something like that I always look forward in my life. Like if I have something bad going on, I think to myself, somebody else has it 10 times worse. Like this is nothing. Some people would want to have your problems. And there's a saying that I saw this quote, I don't remember it exact, but it says, if you were to lay out your problems and see other people's problems, you would immediately take your own back by realizing like yours are nothing compared to what other people may be going through, especially in other countries also.
Especially like a lot of the times, I mean, don't get me wrong, we got our own problems. We got stuff going on, but for sure it puts a lot of perspective on how we live our day-to-day life. And I'm sure I still have not been out of the country. I don't consider Mexico out of the country because it just feels like backyard. It feels like next door. I'm sorry. That's just my feeling. I'm sure people are like, no, girl, you literally left the country.
But even there, you see the difference in poverty too. Like the difference in Mexico poverty versus the poverty here. It's like, wow, like we have it made here. We have so much assistance here. We have so much, like they give you that push to actually, you can do a lot of things.
And speaking of like push and support, what has your relationship experience been like over the years to finally get to a point where you're with somebody that is supportive? What is that difference? Why is that important to have someone like that?
It's important to me because especially all the modeling I do, all the events I do, all the people that approach me. Sometimes we can be somewhere, like, can I take a picture with you? Like, he's the one that ends up taking the picture for us. And it's like, it's normal. He's used to that. But I think a lot of it has to do that he met me already that way. So it was something like in the norm for him, for people to come up to me and ask me for pictures. I mean, there was one time they made me get off of a drive-through at a taqueria. Oh my God, are you Fatima? Can I take a picture with you? And it's like, okay, let me get off of the car. And it's like, you know, pictures and that. So it's very important to be with somebody that's supportive that way, because I mean, it can affect you so much. And if they're not, that only shows that I consider my boyfriend very, very, you said the word right now.
Supportive.
He doesn't have insecurities. So he doesn't have to reflect those insecurities by trying to control me, because he's secure. He's secure about where he stands.
And so when, like, women may be listening to this now, women who are promo models, people who know you, you know, or maybe be in their own space, you know, what did young Fatima dating and whatever, you know, what were some of the red flags now that you look at being in a healthy relationship? You know, what are those red flags that it's like, girl, there's no changing this man, you gotta go?
First off, if they try to change the way you dress, they try to change the way you look. For me, that's a major red flag, because, hey, you met me this way, I was attracted to you, and now all of a sudden you don't like the way I dress, you don't like my hair, you don't like, they try to change you. So for me, that's a major red flag when they try to say that skirt is too short, or that's too tight, or that blouse is too crop top.
And anything else? Because you work some pretty long hours.
Yeah,
you work with a lot of people. You know, a lot of people take photos of you. You know, being in the public. What's another red flag that for
verbally abuse, like trying to put you down to uplift themselves. So people that say, oh, well, yeah, you're not even that good. It wasn't even that good. Like,
has someone seriously told you that?
They've tried, but I'm thankfully like have that mind where I'm like, right, they've tried. Like, it wasn't even that good. Yeah, like, you're not even that good. Like, or this and that. So, but they do that out of an insecurity to make you stop that. You get me? Mm-hmm. So it's an effect that they try to manipulate, a way to manipulate the situation so that you don't have that drive to continue to model or continue to go to events or continue to be outspoken and social.
And I sometimes wish that, like, people would just kind of like look within themselves and be like, okay, you know what? Like, as a woman, when I've pointed out those exact situations, when they've been like, oh, you know what, you're this, you're that, whatever, like, you got this award, I'm super excited. They're just like, okay, cool, whatever. Like, the lack of joy,
it shows.
If that person isn't joyful for your wins, even if they don't get it, if they don't get it, whatever. But if they're not joyful for the wins that you are having in your life, but constantly want you to be happy for their wins, and that's it, then it's done.
Not only in relationships, I mean, we see it a lot in relationships, but friendships also.
Oh, my
friendships.
God.
And it's like, you should celebrate everything, even if it's a small apartment. Hey, it's an achievement. Like, you got out of your parents' house. Now you have your own like rent to pay. Yeah. Now you have your own food to pay. It's always like a celebration. It's always the smallest things. Whatever car you get, whatever house you get, start off small. Everything is a celebration, and it should be.
And so, to wrap up our interview, this wonderful interview, you know, just kind of digging into you, I want to ask you two last things, and one of them is about your guest host and what you think about him. What is something about him that allows you on La Comidilla to do what you do? Something positive, something, you know, that makes sense as to why you guys work together. And he'll be able to listen to this later. So, like, just what is something that you feel
just the
is
energy.
His
energy and the positivity. I love his energy. I love his positivity. I love how he never has one thing to complain about. Never has one thing to complain about.
Jorge is one of the few Scorpios I like.
Yeah, it's surprising to know that he's a Scorpio. Like, wow. Or maybe his wife would have other things to say behind us.
Yes, but with us here,
yes.
I will agree. Like one of the greatest things about Jorge is definitely the fact that he is one of those people that, how there's like people that say, te apoyo, and like, es pura palabra.
Yes.
This man is not that. Yeah. And for the Valley, it's so clear why so many businesses love him, why a lot of people love him, why he was such a great radio DJ when he was on FM. Now he's doing his own thing. Like, all of that makes sense. And so yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And you'll never see him. Nothing you give, an idea you have, or nothing is ever dumb to him. It's always like, yeah, you can do it. Yes. Very supportive, never complains about anything. And if anything bad happens to him, it's always a joke. He's always laughing about a bad situation that like embraces like the negativity or a bad day. And it's like, man, like this happened and so. And it's like, he makes it funny. And maybe that's his way of coping with it.
Honestly, I think that's also the other big reason I love Jorge is because me and him deal with life the same way. I've had a lot of stuff happen. You know it. Everybody who works, who knows me, like really personally, because I protect you. I hate it. I hate it to no end when people talk about you in my presence in a way that is demeaning, and it pisses me off. The entire team will tell you, like, if we've gone somewhere and that's happened, I immediately shut it down. But with Jorge, it's like his humor and my humor are the same. I don't know if it's a Valley thing. I don't know if it's a Mexican thing, but I'm just like, I haven't been able and can't write sad songs sad because I always look at it in a funny way. I try because it's the best way to cope. Because otherwise, I'll go crazy.
Yeah, and that's something very admirable. Because I'll ball up in a corner like, start crying, and right away.
Call me.
Later on, then I'll laugh. But then it's like it's very admirable to see that you all are like that.
Don't get me don't get me wrong. I'm sure me and Jorge both get pissed off while it's happening.
Yeah. But then after, when you speak on it or you don't let it affect your day.
It's taken some time to learn how to do that.
Yeah.
It's taken a long time.
And it's very, very good advice, because you don't let a bad situation make a bad day. It's just a situation.
But it goes back to what you were saying, which is being in the present is so important. And you have managed to be such a strong woman in dealing with, the pressures of being a promo model. And there are, the way you look and your safety and how you engage with the world around you. But on top of that, you separate that person from the person that your nieces know and your significant other knows, and all of these people, and even myself. And so, with that being said, what is life accordion to you?
Life accordion to me. That's such a nice, it even gives me the chills. It's just like embracing the moment, because you're never going to get it back. Embracing that moment and leaving a nice perception of yourself to people. A nice way for them to express you. Like, I met her and she was just so kind. Always having something kind to say about everyone. You don't know how much you impact somebody by telling them, hey, like, I really like your lipstick. I really like your nails. Oh my God, like, your skin is so beautiful today. Always look at someone and look at something good about them and point it out. And you don't know what difference you will make, not only to themselves, but about you to them.
Thank you for watching another episode of Accordion to Me, and as always, puro amor, puro besos.
Para empezar, ni siquiera me invitaron. Yo aquí llegué
y llega hasta con silla. Hasta con silla llega.
Ahora sí, Accordion to my mitotes. Vamos a empezar. Esta va a ser la comidilla, cenadilla. Vamos a seguirle.
Snacadilla.
Se está poniendo bueno. Ya lo quieren cortar. ¿Cómo que thank you, tejano? Yo apenas iba a bailar las aguas frescas. Aquí andaba yo. Pero bueno, como quieran. A ver, sigue con el motote, me encanta el mitote. Pues, ¿qué es eso de que los guys están mandando pictures? ¿Qué pasó?
Sí, no.
Guys.
Vamos a hablar.
Por favor, guys, por favor.
Pues vamos a hablar de eso.
Nada más las girls. Las girls sí pueden, pero los boys, ¿qué pasó? ¿Verdad que sí? No, es lo que les digo.
Nomás estamos viendo palmas y cocos.
Sí. ¿Estás bien, Ana Bárbara? Sí.
Todos los días es un personaje.
Todos los días.
Que cuando traigo un outfit o algo, siempre me hay un personaje.
Se convierte, mi comadre.
La cosa que está bien chistoso ahorita es que el momento que entró, es fácil a ver por qué todos nosotros decimos que es tan positivo, tienes tan energía el momento que salió del otro lado.
Es el alcohol.
Son los shots que se toman para
los shots de
almuerzo.
anoche, que por cierto no ganaron los Rayados, pero no, pues aquí andamos.
Pues les voy a decir esto, la próxima semana vamos a estar aquí con un episodio especial en español de Accordion to Me con el host de la Comidilla, Jorge Escobedo.
Scooby-Doo.
Aquí como soy en la lucha, ¿quién me cree?
Aquí traigo boletos para regalar si quieren. Ya ando de mi totero.
Pues muchísimas gracias a todos ustedes. And thank you guys so very much. Muchísimas gracias. Puro amor, puro beso, puro tejano. ¡Mua! Thank you for listening to Accordion to Me. The team behind this week's episode includes mixing and editing by Juan Pablo Diaz, theme music by Rodrigo Montalvo, produced by Javi G from MD Media. In-person recordings were done at the Podify Studios and remotely through Riverside FM. Accordion to Me is distributed through Anchor, and you can stream Accordion to Me wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. I'm your host and executive producer, Veronique Medrano. Puro amor, puro besos, puro Tex-Mex.